Hello, everyone, and my name is Byron. And today I have Tom Rosenack, who's a partner in crime, friend, and fellow founder of Optimax Talent. In Optimax Talent, we are a company that focuses on helping companies get the most out of their talent. Really, obviously, within the name, to optimize their work with their talent. That's kind of how I would say it. How would you say it, Tom?
Well, I think optimize means better. And our premise is we work with successful companies that are good, but what would it look like for the top and bottom lines if they were even better? And we know the core ingredient is people. So we want to unlock people potential so that you increase return on people investment.
So the reason that we're doing this live upstream now, or live stream, I guess you'd say it. You can see how new to this is to me. This is all brand new. This is actually just test, and we're still going to talk about stuff that we think is important stuff to talk about today. But we really want to kind of promote tomorrow. We're going to be doing the same, not the same subject we're going to talk about today, but we're going to be going live every single Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 9 a.m. No, that's not right. So it's 11 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m., right, Tom? 1 p.m. Central time. We're going to be going live on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and even on YouTube. So we're trying to work out the kinks and the bugs and all this, because this is all, like I said, this is brand new to me. So today we wanted to talk about just something really simple. Why are managers so important? When you think about the workflow, when you think about the work that, let's say a CEO has a vision of obviously wanting to get work done in and through their company, and that's going to happen through people, right? And if your company is of a certain size, and generally speaking, let's say you have a company of 100 people. Generally speaking, that means you're going to have about 10 leaders or 10 managers in your company, that they're going to have responsibility for not just themselves, the work that they do, but also the work that other people do. I mean, up to 10 people per team. So when you think about that, as a CEO, or even is like a company of 100, you're not going to have a C-suite, but you might have some, like, some VPs, maybe some directors. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But the point is the managers, the ones that are literally helping to get the work done through the people. Why are they so important? And what can we do as leaders in this field of kind of talent optimization, and how to help companies with their most precious resource, their people? What can we do to facilitate managers being able to do their job at their optimum? What do you think, Tom?
Well, I think we're going to talk about two sides of the same equation. And one is that you have a business strategy with clear goals and objectives. You have limited resources and time pressure. So the first call is to understand that dynamic through new lenses, because that dynamic is out of your control to a large degree. So what we're talking about is things you can do right where you are with what you have to improve the people power. And it all starts with understanding their drives, their motivations, their aspirations, and them personally and professionally, while at the same time remembering this is a business. So we need to reach goals and drive processes and projects. And so you don't ever solve the puzzle, which is why we use the word people strategy. It's holistic and dynamic, ever moving, and today at a faster pace than ever. But what tends to happen is we become reactive, and that's 100% of us become reactive in this accelerated environment. And then we throw money and people and time at issues when we don't have a clear people strategy.
So if we can just kind of zoom out a little bit, and thinking about that CEO who is wanting to get work done in and through their company, through their people, and you're saying that they need to have a people strategy, and you're saying that is somehow, it measures some things. What was it again you said that we would measure? Is that what you meant as far as a people strategy?
Yeah, so I really like to simplify things, and partially because I don't know all of the buzzwords, but uh, strategy, the best, most concise definition I heard is, what are you counting on to win is your strategy. When you ask people about strategy, they always say plan, but a plan comes out of a strategy. You don't start with a plan, you have a strategy. So when it comes, if we zoom out, you asked us to zoom out, let's put no specifics in there and just say you have something clearly you want to accomplish. You have a SMART goal. It's specific, it's motivating, which means it's aligned to your mission and your purpose. It's attainable, which means it's a stretch, but it's not completely out of the realm of possibility, and it's trackable. So those are concrete goals and objectives. So the next thing you're going to say is, what resources do we have? And the two that are the most apparent, and they're all subsets of that, are time and money. And since you, the CEO, or zooming out to the CEO, probably isn't going to run the project plan, you're now talking about people. So then the next question is, what kind of person would not only be able to do this, but is likely to be fulfilled to do it? And that's where we use people data to try and match the work to the wiring of the people. And so a strategy, one thing Predictive Index likes to say that I love, it's not literal in the hybrid workplace, but it still works as an analogy. So we know we have this need. First thing we do is we scratch our head because people produce on teams, and we say, is this person in the room? Meaning, before we go running out to the marketplace, what if Schmedley, with a small adjustment, could cover a blind spot while we plan in the future? Or what if we notice that Smith is doing something that's no longer mission critical? We say, if we were to readjust this team, we could optimize our production relative to the goals just by asking the question, is this person in the room? Then the next question you ask, and of course in hybrid, the room might be a Zoom room, but it still works as an analogy. Then the next question is this person in the building? You know, perhaps you have somebody, I work with a company that just reshifted their teams because they found out that their teams were 2 years ago goals, and they just stayed. They said, I'm on this team. Well, is that the best thing? And so they asked this question, and they moved some people around. Nobody got fired, nobody got hired, but they were much more focused and mission critical. And then the last question is this person on the street? But if we're not asking the first two questions, we're likely to either bloat or duplicate. And so the strategy is a system of questions we ask. How do we define a win? What do we have? What do we have that's obvious, and what do we have that's less obvious? And we investigate. And people's strategy is, are we creating, can be global like a culture? Are we creating an environment where she can do her best work? And to ask that question and answer it, we need to know how she's wired. And so there's questions around that, and people data helps to do that. And how can we create an environment where she's more likely to be successful?
Gotcha.
And
so I'm just going to back up a little bit so you can reiterate some points. You're saying that strategy really essentially is, what are we counting on to win? Yes. It's not really a plan. It's literally
a plan is the deliverable. So when I stand up in front of a group and say, we all use the word strategy. Let's be more strategic. Everybody uses it. What are we talking about? And almost always somebody says a plan. And she's not wrong. That's what we end up with. But that's not the strategy. A plan incorporates what we're counting on to win with the resources we have. And if people do SWOT analysis or SOAR analysis, all of that is strategic. And then after they do their good work, what people will see is a plan, and it's a strategic plan. But strategy is not a plan. And I can prove this because when I launched my business, someone said, you need a business plan. And I went and got all the templates and I wrote a business plan suitable for framing. But it wasn't realistic. Then I looked around and said, well, who's going to do all this stuff? Right? The plan was good. The plan just wasn't real. And I still suffer that today. You know, a plan is the deliverable, but the plan isn't good unless it's aligned to a strategy that takes your realistic situation into account. And so we have to step back and we have to survey the whole terrain. And yes, when we do the work, there will be a plan, but the plan is not the strategy. The plan should reflect the strategy.
Gotcha. So again, you know, we're helping that CEO. We're within this conversation. We've zoomed out. We've answered and asked the question. We've asked and answered the question. What is strategy? Strategy is what you're counting on to win. And then you're saying, CEO, what you're counting on to win essentially is people, because you're not going to do all that work. You're going to delegate that work to the people that are on your team in order to get that work done. And then you're saying this. We have this goal. We have these goals, these SMART goals, or whatever we want to call them. We have these objectives and things, deliverables that we want to get done in our company. If we want to make a widget, or we want to create a process, we want to create a service, whatever it is, the CEO is saying, this is what my company's about. This is my mission, vision. All that stuff's really super clear. It's going to get done in and through people. And what you're saying is, basically, from a CEO's perspective and all the way down to the directors and the managers, is that there are three questions. The first question you said was, is this person in the room that can do this job? Help us understand when you say that, as a CEO, if the CEO asks, if she asks that question, is this person in the room? What does that mean?
Well, and I think before you ask that question, this is where strategy and plan come together. Is this really the right work to be done? Because I've worked at so many companies that do work because everybody think they need to do that work. So is this the right work to be done?
Okay, so let's say that we've done our due diligence and we actually have a very clear idea of what needs to be done.
Yeah.
So we have a job.
Who is going to do it?
Right. So we have a very clear job profile. It needs to get done. So now let's go back to that first question.
Yeah. So are they in the room? Is there a chance when we analyze this team, we find that maybe just we can get started internally and we're not ready to hire, and we can make it be an opportunity for somebody to take on a challenge that's basically wired to do it, and we can give her the support she needs. And maybe the best strategy long term is to start with what we've got on the team while we build a case for what we're going to need. And boy, would HR love that, you know? So it's you start by let's saying what we can do right here with the current people. Probably you can't do all of it, but are they in the room simply means the people were, whether it's a Zoom room or a physical room. The metaphor started when it was actually a room, but whatever it is, to say, you know, I think we can make Mr. or Miss CEO, I think we can make measurable progress in reasonable time as a team goal. And then it becomes the responsibility of that team, and they might draw cross-functionally for parts of it. So there we're into, is the person in the building. So she says, you know, I can do much of this, but I could really be helped by a detail-oriented person to work with. And then using people analytics and looking at the workload of other people, we say, gosh, competitive intelligence has somebody, you know, who is willing and has the time to support you on this. So it's still a team goal, but we both own it. And so it's a cross-functional work. So is what we need in the building. And then the next question is, are they on the street? And we want to keep all of these working together. So it's a lot of conversations. And data helps with all three. So when we think about the higher module, which we'll talk about in a future live stream, it's particularly working on finding a fit to a specific job. But you can still use, for a less comprehensive means, you can use behavioral reports. You probably wouldn't use a cognitive test to just say, we know she does good work. We know nobody on our team could design this spreadsheet. Can we negotiate with their manager to see, maybe we do a swap, or maybe we do something so that we get this resource, human resource, working on something that's going to contribute and be fulfilling. Whereas the person who's in the room, maybe they could do it, but they'd rather have a root canal than do it. And so then what you do is you have burnout because somebody who's already overwhelmed is asked to do more, and they're asked to do the more isn't really aligned to their strengths. Maybe she can do it, and maybe she will get her resume out on the marketplace.
Well, let's paint a little bit of a picture. We're getting with the CEO. We've zoomed out. we now know what strategy is. It's what we're counting on to win, and the CEO is going to be counting on people to win. So we're going to have three people we're going to be talking about. We already have a job profile. We have Rozenak, which is one of the people that's in the room. We have Smedley. Smedley is in a lot of our conversations. Smedley is very important because Smedley has a certain kind of proclivity to do work. The kind of work that Smedley does is very specific because it's very detailed. Smedley, and it can be a him or a her, is very good at follow through, does not like to break the rules, does not like mistakes at all. And then there's Smith. So we've got Rozenak, Smedley, and Smith. Tell us a little bit of the story about spreadsheets. So let's say the job is a spreadsheet job, and the CEO is looking at Rozenak and saying, "Hey, Rozenak, this is your deal. You take it." What does Rozenak say?
Well, so Rozenak is saying that I have a tendency to live in the world of ideas, and I have, I'll be specific, and if anyone wants to know what it is, they can take the assessment. I have a low D, which means I come at it with high spirit and great inspiration, but there's leaks in the structure. And when I partner with somebody who's tight on structures, then we can create something Rozenak couldn't have created, nor could have Smedley. And that's partnership, is the idea of, and let's not be naive, none of us can come from our strength all of the time. But if leaders show a willingness and eagerness to have the person come from the strength more often, the fulfillment and engagement goes up. And I do this the most in working with managers that are working with introverts. And I'll say at 2:00 in the afternoon, if you suddenly say, "Well, Smith, what do you think we ought to do about that?" She's able to do it. So think of a buoy. You don't see the wobbling. You don't see the wind and you don't see the wobbling, but the buoy is anchored to something. She's not energized by being put on the spot. But if I would have in scenario 2 said, next Tuesday at the meeting, I'm going to be talking about X, and you're the best person on the team to address it. And if it's sincere, then that really gets the cortisol going. And if it's sincere, and to say you're the best person for it, but she had time to think about it because she has a low B. So she comes to the meeting, and because she's a seasoned professional, you wouldn't see a difference between scenario 1 and scenario 2, but she would feel it. And if it happens often, it's going to be unsettling. Scenario 2 energized her, scenario 1 drained her. Now, the reality is there's no way I could have prepared, but I've already demonstrated that I work to give her space, that she doesn't like to talk to think. I like to talk to think, so I go up and say, "Hey, what do you think we ought to do about this, Nancy? Blah, 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 blah." And she'd rather have a root canal because 2:00 was the time she was working on X. And so when we understand, we can do 2 things, and 2 things all of us need to do. It's not either or, it's and both. Sometimes we need to flex to the need of the individual, to the need of the team, to the need of the goal. We have a deadline tomorrow. We all got to shovel coal. And it's not that it doesn't matter how you're wired, it's that we don't have time to adjust. But the other thing we need to do is ask for what we need. And so Rosenak comes by my cube at 2 o'clock going, blah, 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 blah. We just had a brainstorming meeting, and she feels permission because of the kind of culture we have to say, Tom, could you write down your question and give me some time to think about it? I go, oh yeah, I hadn't even thought of that. So I'm willing to do it. I'm just unaware. And we need to differentiate between the 4 root causes of failure to accomplish something that we have the ability to accomplish. The first is unaware. Tom likes to ask questions, think, and talk at the same time. Nancy doesn't. Unaware. The second is unwilling. And I just want everybody to just blurt out their questions all the time. That's not very smart, but it's possible. The third is unable, and that's where training fits in. She could do it, she wants to do it, but she doesn't yet have the skill. Then training makes sense, but training doesn't make sense for A and for B, or 1 and 2, if I'm going to be consistent. And then the third is, the fourth is not suited. So if you mentioned spreadsheet, I can tell you this. If there was a job that required spreadsheets all day long, Tom Rosenak is not suited. God did not give me spreadsheet genes. I marvel at these people. They can dance around this thing from cell to cell. You know, my wife created a spreadsheet for me, and she had to have certain cells Tom-proof, like you couldn't put a number in there where it doesn't belong, because I'd put a number in the wrong place and it'd mess up all the things. She'd say, where'd you come up with this? And she says, wait a minute. So then she could protect the cells. So I can use a spreadsheet, but somebody has to show me how to use it. You asked me to create a spreadsheet. Someone said, well, you can watch a YouTube video. No, you watch a YouTube video. God didn't give me spreadsheet genes. So what we're talking about is we're talking about increasing, expanding our awareness so that we can make better decisions on fit for work. And there's 2 dimensions: effectiveness at the work and fulfillment, because long-term you won't get effectiveness. There are some people that can design worksheets very well, but someone wants them to do it for 20 years. And they go, you know what? I'd like to do something else. Oh, but Schmedley, you're so good at designing spreadsheets. Well, you're going to lose that person. But in the right circumstance, might feel good about, I'm the one that can do this, and I'd be excited to do this. And they'll work on the weekend on their own and create this beautiful thing. But the manager could make a mistake and say, well, let's just have her create one for all the divisions. And then all of a sudden you lose her.
We want to thank you for just taking the time to listen to us today. And just a reminder, what I said at the front of this, every single Thursday for 30 minutes, Tom and I are going to be sharing little itty bits of stuff like this. We're going to talk more about Schmedley and Smith and Rosenak, and maybe even a Lo, maybe an introverted.
Yeah, I think I'm going to interview you, Lo.
Yeah,
and
that's
we're
right.
Put you in the room or in the building. We won't put you out on the street.
Anyway, it was an absolute joy to be with you today. Remember, tomorrow, Thursday, at 11 o'clock Pacific, hopefully 11 o'clock in the morning Pacific, and we'll see you there. So have a great night, everyone.